Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, well, big news. Jerome Powell, well, the word's going to come down soon. Who is going to be his replacement? Just coming out that President Trump says he is going to announce tomorrow morning who he has picked for the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. That is a very big deal. Of course, he's been unhappy with Chairman Powell about interest rates, about that renovation of the Federal Reserve building, and so much more. And of course, we will have the latest on who gets picked tomorrow, a very big decision that the world will be watching. And of course, the world is also watching what's going on in Minnesota, guys. We're going to talk about that and much more tonight here on The Rita Cosby Show. Tom Homan, our friend, the Border Czar, now in Minnesota. And he said he is hoping for some collaboration between the locals. And in fact, he got a big breakthrough announcing that really left of the left radical, Keith Ellison, the Attorney General there of Minnesota, who's been very provocative and I think incendiary in his comments about Trump and also about ICE. Well, he says, Tom Homan, that Keith Ellison has agreed that he's clarifying his remarks and is going to allow the locals, the local authorities, the county authorities and others to cooperate with the feds. He said, that was always sort of the policy. Yeah, right. It just shows when you bring somebody in like Tom Homan with the backing of the president and his no-nonsense style, that maybe things change. Hopefully things will temper down. I'm not sure about that, though, because tomorrow is another big national anti-ICE day in Minnesota and across the country. And supporters are calling for it around the nation, saying it's going to start tomorrow and it's going to continue for days upon days. Boy, oh boy, buckle up, everybody. It's cold outside. In fact, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, it's 2 degrees. If you think you're cold where you are, it's 2 degrees. But it's still warm enough for those protesters who I believe are getting paid to get out there and warm up and taunt and harass ICE. It's never too cold for that. So Tom Homan out there today talking about that, yes, some strides have been made, but he also said that they are going to go big time after those who are backing these protests. Have you noticed, guys, that all these different protests around the country, you see same signs, you see same T-shirts, you see same designs, you see the same chants, you see them organized. They all happen to show up at the same time, sometimes the same vehicles. I mean, it's like a rent-a-protester. So who is backing these protesters? Who's spending such big money that it is trying to undermine America in a huge, huge way? And boy, is it destructive, and boy, is it damaging to our democracy. Well, Tom Homan says enough, that they're about to crack down tough on that. Take a listen. Here's Tom Homan just a little bit ago.
First off, Ben Berkbaum, Real America's Voice News. On behalf of the American people, I just want to say thank you to you and to all of the agents that are putting their lives on the line to go after the people that were allowed in the last administration. We watched that happen in the media, the honest media, covered up by many of the media that are behind me. We want to say thank you, and to all the men and women that are out there. Can you talk to us about what's being done with the leadership on these signal chats, on these WhatsApp chats that are organizing the attacks against you, the obstruction against you? Are we going to be arresting those individuals as well? And to the folks out there in America that voted for this, that want mass deportations because they saw a mass invasion under Joe Biden, what would you say to them? How are we going to get to that point?
Well, first of all, about the organization and the funding of the attacks on ICE. I'm not going to answer a lot about that because I'm not going to show our hand, but they'll be held accountable. Justice is coming.
I love Tom Homan. He's like Clint Eastwood. Justice is coming. Or Charles Bronson. Or maybe Steven Seagal. But he is great. He is no nonsense. He's direct. And you know, when he looks in the camera and says justice is coming, it's coming in a big, big way. So here is the video that everybody's talking about. It broke just before we were on the air last night. And I'm sure many of you have now had a chance to really look at that video. Boy, have I. And I was looking at it right before the show last night. We talked about it because it had just come out. And now the world is talking about that video. And I'm talking about Alex Preddy, who is the man who died in that altercation with authorities there in Minneapolis. That was on January 24th. But on January 13th, you see this video of him fighting with agents. And it starts with him spitting at agents, screaming at them, saying, F you, F this, come get me, come kill me, come do this, come do that, come shoot me. I mean, that's highly provocative. I mentioned the spitting. And then he kicks out the taillight. You see him like giving like a, Bruce Lee kick a couple times to the taillight so much it falls right out. And he continues fast and furious, swearing, and he still has the gun in his holster at that time. They stop the vehicle. It's ICE vehicle. They're driving away. So he's doing all this as they're driving away. They're filming this because I guess some of his friends thought it was so cool. And then ICE gets out of the vehicle and comes over to him and says, hey, what are you doing? You're destroying federal property. You're threatening us. They put him on the ground. He has a loaded gun. And he's wrestling with them on the ground. He's not like saying, oh, yeah, peacefully protesting and peacefully acquiescing. He's struggling with them. He's fighting against them. So he's confronting and then he's fighting against them. Now, his family has come out in the last few hours, said, yes, that is my son, but nothing that happened that day should justify what happened on the 24th. I'll give him that. It doesn't mean if you're bad behavior one day, that it justifies something else another day. But it certainly does explain the mindset of this guy and maybe many of the things that led to that moment on the 24th in the video that now we have all seen when he lost his life, which is just terrible. It's terrible. It's tragic. It's horrible. But what was he saying to authorities? What was he doing with authorities? Where were his hands that day? I mean, there's still so many questions about the 24th. And this guy doesn't look like Mother Teresa, at least in the 13th, that's for sure. So I want to play the video again because does this sound like a nice, sweet, wonderful, just quiet protester? This is him approaching and kicking the ICE agent vehicle. This is on 11 days before he tragically lost his life.
This is a moment that filmed on January 3rd, showing a man who appears to be Alex interacting with federal immigration agents 11 days before Border Patrol shot and killed him. Our footage was analyzed by the BBC, whose facial recognition technology confirmed his identity to a 97% degree of accuracy.
Well, now it's 100% because his family said, yes, that's him. But again, they're saying it has no bearing on what happened 11 days later. But here is Tom Homan. He was asked about it by a reporter for his thoughts on the shooting and so much more. Take a listen.
Similar Newsmax. The new video of Alex Preddy is now circulating. Your reaction to that, and do you think law enforcement could have played a role if, like, let's say, Minneapolis police were able to respond to that? Have those top law enforcement officials said they'll help or do anything to help these agents who are out here?
I'm not going to comment on any of these shootings. I said from day one, I said on any of these shootings, as a career law enforcement officer, we'll let the investigation roll out, let the investigation play out, and let it go where it goes. I'm not going to come out and make any comments that I think is right, wrong. Do I have an opinion? Yeah. My personal opinion, but I'm not going to share that with you. I'm going to tell you, let the investigation play out and see where it goes. But again, the president, one of the words he said to me, I came up here, he said he didn't want to see anybody die. The less interference, the less rhetoric, the less, I have buried Border Patrol agents and I buried ICE agents throughout my career, and the saddest thing I ever done is hold hand a folded flag to a wife or a child. I don't want to see anybody die, even the people we're looking for. I don't want to see anybody die. And despite what people think of Tom Homan, I say a prayer every night that everybody goes home safe. This isn't good. But I think my conversations the last 2.5 days are leading us to a safer community. Let ICE officers operate in the safety and security of a jail more than on the street. I think anybody here with common sense would say it's safer to arrest a public safety threat in the safety and security of a jail. And let me tell you, what is that going to result in? Less collateral arrests. When we go find that bad guy, when we find that bad guy, many times it's with others. Well, guess what? They're in the country illegally. We're going to force immigration law. They're coming too. You want less collateral arrest? Let's them in jail. But we're going to enforce immigration law. For the people to say we're here to surrender our authority and the mission of enforcing immigration law, you are wrong. We're going to do target enforcement operations, and we're going to prioritize the public safety threats and national security threats. That is what we're here to do.
Powerful statement from Tom Homan. By the way, so he was going for a meeting with Governor Tim Walz. And these loony protesters who I think they're just, I don't know, like really thirsty for a protest, they show up outside Tim Walz's office because they don't want Tim Walz to be meeting with Tom Homan. They think that Tim Walz would be surrendering if he even meets with Tom Homan. He did have that meeting, but the far, far left doesn't want to have any contact, any cooperation, anything. They're never going to be happy. Never, which is why you got to crack down and why these, far extreme radicals like a Tim Walz, like a Jacob Fry, like others, this is why they never should have opened the door. They should have made it extremely clear, extremely focused, and said, we will not tolerate this. They should have done that from the beginning, but they still haven't even done that. So they still have a long way to go. But these people are just, thirsty for a protest and to really undermine and destroy America. I had to play this clip for you guys tonight. This is Ana Navarro. She's on CNN. Of course, she's on The View also. And you just heard that tape of Alex Preddy, his crazy comments. And this is a real short clip. It's about 30 seconds. And I wanted to play it for you because here's Ana Navarro saying Alex Preddy, the screaming Alex Preddy, seems like a nice, sweet man that you want to take home. Take a listen.
They chose to, they killed the wrong guy, right? Because this is like the perfect guy. Alex Preddy is the guy you would want to date your daughter. The guy you would want your son to grow up to be, a decent human being who was serving humanity, serving sick veterans, who is, there is nothing that has been said about that man that isn't wonderful. And so they can't malign him. They can't malign him because we have the videos.
That's right. We have the videos. Wow. We're going to take your calls when we come back. 1-800-848-9222. We have the videos, Ana Navarro.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to your calls, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Teddy in Yonkers on line 5. Go ahead, Teddy.
How you doing, Rita? Rita, you're a very intelligent woman.
Thank you.
except that your viewpoints are all on the right side. Everyone.
Thank you. So you agree with them. Thank you.
No, I don't. On some of them, yes. You see, that's the difference between myself and your station.
No, you just said that I'm on the correct side. So thank you.
No, I don't mean it in that context, Rita. I know you have your famous laugh, Rita. The video of 11 days ago. Let me make my point, and then you can retort.
Thank you. Thank you for directing the show. Go ahead, Ted.
Okay. The video from 11 days ago is irrelevant to what happened to him when he was murdered. What he did was vandalism. Fine. Charge him. He should have been charged for vandalism. But that doesn't give ICE the right to kill him like they did after he was on the ground and he was disarmed. Okay? And even Senator Tillis from North Carolina. Are you going to classify him as a rhino, Rita? As all of the people on the right do? Any Republican senator or Republican...
I'm not, by the way, I'm not going to... I know Senator Tom Tillis, so just so you know, I'm not going to classify him. Everybody has a right to an opinion. And I've even said, Teddy, on the incident on the 24th, you are correct that the video doesn't, and the family even says that it doesn't mean what happened to him on the 24th. I'm still saying that we need to see what happened on the 24th. Right now we have a guy where I dispute the case 11 days earlier. He clearly looks like an unhinged madman. I mean, they make it sound like he happened to be passing by, happened to just be videography, work at on the 24th. This guy was unhinged. He was screaming, looking for a fight with law enforcement. He got it 11 days earlier, and it looks like he went back for more on the 24th. That's just the appearance. That's my opinion. Okay. And a lot of other people are saying that. So it doesn't put him in a good light. It doesn't change what happened, but it certainly gives you a sense of the type of person he is and the person that he is volatile. I certainly wouldn't want him operating on anybody I know at the VA hospital. I mean, that guy sounds like he's a lunatic, Teddy. Don't you agree? When you see that video, it's not just vandalism. You are chasing a law enforcement vehicle, kicking out the lights, spitting at law enforcement. Teddy, I'm going to start where you started, that you're an intelligent guy. You're a great intelligent guy. I could never imagine you chasing a law enforcement vehicle and swearing at an officer, resisting arrest. I agree with you, the one part. He should have been arrested at the beginning. Teddy, I'm going to hold you over because I love you and you said I'm right/correct. That's how I'll keep it. Stick with us.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Sylva, North Carolina, where a 12-year-old boy with autism who went missing from his home on Monday night was found safe after a rapid coordinated search involving multiple agencies and a valuable member of the police department staff, K9 Brody. The child was reported missing just after 6 p.m. from a residence, and temperatures were dropping to a freezing 15 degrees. Officers on the scene got there very quickly. They established a perimeter and deployed a tracking canine amid the concerns that the cold was very, very difficult, obviously, and of course the child's vulnerability. They knew they had to get on it very quickly. So once on the scene, K9 Brody and his handler went to work. Once a scent article was obtained from the home, a piece of clothing or something that the child had touched, the canine began tracking. K9 Brody picked up the scent and he went to work. He led the officers approximately 200 yards from the child's home to an abandoned vehicle on a nearby property where the boy was found curled up inside. Police said, incredibly, the boy is healthy. He was very cold and very scared. And how great that the canine went to work so quickly and saved that beautiful little boy's life. And let's continue with your calls, guys. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Teddy. Teddy, thank you so much. We had a hard break there, but go ahead and pick it up.
Yes, Rita. Thanks for giving me the time.
Absolutely.
Rita, Stephen Miller acknowledged that he misspoke when I think he said he labeled him as a domestic terrorist. I'm not sure if that's why when he said he corrected himself he misspoke. And why did Trump remove Christine Noem from Minnesota? And he brought in Tom Homan. And there must be reasons for him removing these Christine Noem from being in charge.
Yeah, well, and let me answer that, Teddy, and then we'll go further, because I think, and I was watching, by the way, some of her comments tonight. She made some comments tonight. She essentially said she relied on information on the ground, and often in scenes like this, things are chaotic, and you don't always get the facts right, or you don't always get the information. You just do the best you could. So I'm just saying that's what she said. I think she should have been careful to use that phrase. I agree with you. I don't think she should have jumped the gun and used that phrase, even if it was given to her or told to her or whatever the case. That seems to be also the situation from Stephen Miller. Now, the other thing Stephen Miller said, which I thought was an interesting point, Teddy, he also said that Customs and Border Protection, that he doesn't understand why they were so close to the agitators, but also because typically they're there to sort of provide protection from ICE and to help. They're there to assist. And part of the reason that they're there on the ground, by the way, is because the local police are not helping. I mean, there have been these reports of ICE agents surrounded with angry mobs, and the police can't come because they're told, no, they're not supposed to help ICE in any shape or form. I think that that's going to change a little bit based on what we heard from Tom Homan today, because what it does is it puts the Custom and Border Protection right there on the front lines. And if people are out to get, federal agents, it doesn't really matter to them if it's CBP or ICE. So I'm happy to hear that, him coming on the ground seems to be making some changes. So part of it is a structural thing. And Noem is now going to be focused on the border and some other things. I think it's good that they brought Tom Homan in. I've interviewed Tom many times, as you know, and Tom is a real straight shooter, no nonsense guy, but he's also a reasonable guy. But he's also a results guy. So he's saying, yes, we want to see changes. He doesn't want to see, he's realizing, and obviously the president is too, they don't want to see people die in the streets. I feel terrible that woman Renee Good and Alex Preddy, anybody loses their life. It's a horrible, terrible thing. And I think the president is understandably saying, as president and Tom Homan, as Border Czar, we need to bring the temperature down because these people are out of control and they don't want to see anybody else killed. So I think they're acting responsibly. And I think the changes are a good thing because it does send a message that they're trying to make some changes. And now they're saying, hey, you, Minnesota, you need to make changes. I'm not sure they're going to do it, Teddy. That's the problem.
Well,
did you hear Jacob Fry today? He sounded like he's still ready for a fight.
Yeah, I know. I don't care for that either. The vitriol, Rita.
By the way, Teddy, I'm glad to hear that. I think it's so dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Good.
But the vitriol in this country is so out of hand.
It is.
Rita, I hate to think that we're becoming like Iran because we're shooting and killing our own citizens.
It's heartbreaking.
It's not good, Rita.
It isn't.
And Rita, one last thing. Where are these ICE agents? How are they recruiting them? Is there any vetting process, Rita? It's like having people, when there's a snowstorm, they hire people to shovel snow.
Wait a minute.
Rita.
Teddy, you got to be kidding me. You're telling me that these ICE agents are not qualified? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm asking you, where do they find these ICE agents?
They are getting so many people who want to be ICE agents, which thank God, because there are a lot of crazies out there that obviously are targeting these people. So they most of them are law enforcement, different agencies of law enforcement. Some are former military. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them, and those are the kind of people you want. I mean, Teddy, wait, hang on a second, Teddy. I got to take issue with you. Just made it sound like they're like, like the Keystone Cops. That's not the case. Do you honestly think those ICE agents are not prepared? If they were, and by the way, let's go back to that video we talked about at the start, Ted, on the 11th, the 11 days earlier on the 13th. In that video, that was ICE that actually had their taillights kicked out by this guy. And what do? They put him on the ground. He had a gun. He still had that gun that time, too, by the way. So he had the gun. He's swearing at them, saying, shoot me, shoot me. I mean, that's provocative. And yet they had enough professionalism, incredible patience, and restraint to not even not let things go out of hand there. And they didn't arrest him. That guy got a free pass that day. And I contend they should have locked him up and would have done him a favor, I'm telling you, and sent a message to other people out there that you can't go around kicking taillights. I'm just talking about that incident in isolation. That guy is out of control. That's not a peaceful protester, Teddy. Do you think it is?
No, it's not. No, but why would they on the second time when he was murdered, when they had him on the ground,
when he was shot?
Why? Well, okay, you want to use the word shot.
Yeah,
okay.
Because you want to make it sound like they go out and are shooting people like the OK Corral, and that's not the case.
Well, Rita, based upon what people have seen throughout the whole country, okay, and until they complete the investigation, I'm classifying it as a supposedly murder.
I'm sure you are, Teddy, because you jumped to conclusions, and that's not fair.
But so do people on the right also.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you that a lot of people don't. I think in this particular case, quite frankly, there are a lot of people that have said, let's let cooler heads prevail. And I've seen a lot of Republicans and Democrats and others come out and say, let's see the investigation. I want to see the body cam because those officers had body cam footage. We're told that they're reviewing the body cam, but to call it murder, that is reckless.
Okay.
That is reckless.
I'll wait for the investigation to be completed.
All right.
And then we'll draw our own conclusions.
All right. And I'm going to wait to hear from you then, Teddy. I always love hearing from you, my friend. Thank you very much. Have a great night. All right. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania. Joaquin, go ahead.
Oh, Rita, thank you for setting me up.
I figured you want to respond to Teddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
I call him Teddy Bear, Fuzzy Teddy Bear.
Yes, well, I call him Teddy Ruxpin. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes. Although, you know what I will say? I'll say that Ted was a lot more measured, other than at the end when he got into the murder part. But he seems to have cooled down a little bit. Maybe he's on certain medication or getting more sleep. I'm happy for him, whatever it is.
Yeah, something that actually, I really want to applaud your quick wit because you had me laughing for a long time after that response that you gave him about being right. that was good. That was fast.
I said, I'm glad you find me correct.
I actually know something. I like Teddy. I like Stan, and I like that guy Russ also. I like Russ, who a lot of people have blocked from their shows. And these guys are just misguided. That's all it really is. Unfortunately, they're misguided by the perversion of, the history of this country,
Absolutely. And by the way, I love hearing from everybody. I always welcome them. And I always believe we got to listen to everybody. There's a lot of places, like you said, that like shut down people. And I never believe in shutting down somebody.
Right.
I'll firmly disagree, but I think it's America and we need to talk so things don't get worse. So go ahead.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I would jump to conclusions because I don't want to see these ICE agents have to go through any kind of hell, as to what they did, And quite frankly, and you said it, and that was going to be my point, was had these people, Renee Good or Alex Petty, had been arrested when they first committed crimes, I mean, that attack on the ICE vehicle, that was a crime. He should have been arrested, and that might have saved his life. And I'm sure that Renee Good also had been blocking ICE agents. And if she would have been arrested and had her car towed away and had to pay for the impound, I'm sure that would have sent a message to other people also, that you can't go in there and you can't just, engage in these kind of activities and get away with it and then come back another day to maybe make it worse. And all these people who were saying, about, oh, well, this was murder. No, they've never been in a confrontation that, where split seconds, you're reacting. And I've been in a couple situations, myself. And,
wow. Now, what kind of situation were you that it was sort of a, hairy situation?
All right, here's a good one for you.
All right.
Okay? It turned out fine. One day when I lived on Long Island, so I didn't have any handguns then, okay? So we're sitting there in the kitchen, and if you picture my house, my main floor was upstairs, so I had a flight of stairs outside and one inside. Next thing we know, we're sitting there talking, and it might have been after I got home from work because I work nights. A woman walked into my front door, and was standing there looking out the door. And I was like, what? And she said, they're trying to kill me. I was like, what? And then I told my wife, I turned and I said, Diane, I said, go get one of my guns. I had rifles and shotguns in the bedroom. And she goes, I don't know what to get. She goes, I don't know what ammunition. The next thing I know, she says they're in a brown Camaro. And I'm looking out the door. And next thing I know, I see a brown Camaro pull up to the front of the house. And I had a German Shepherd on the side of the house in a big pen I made for him. But now the problem was that I just reacted. I jumped basically down those stairs, closed the front door, told my wife, call the police, and if somebody can get outside the side door to let the dog out, if I yell for him, So I jumped down the stairs, I closed the door behind me, and I'm standing on the top landing, and luckily people for some reason automatically assume that I'm armed. But in this particular case, I assumed a stance where I was reaching behind my back and made it look like I was pulling for a gun behind my back as these guys started walking up the driveway.
Very smart. By the way, very smart. So real quick, how did it end? Wow.
Okay, here's what wound up happening. So anyway, yes, they came. They said, the guy said, look, I don't know if you remember me. And it turned out he was a neighbor down the street, and this was his sister-in-law, okay? And, and so she was having some mental difficulties.
Wow.
And so my wife called the police, and the police actually did show up, but I threw myself into a situation that I did not know what the outcome was going to be, but it was, split seconds that, I had to react to this.
So
and
Joaquin,
there were a couple other times.
So Joaquin, in that case, that, by the way, thank goodness, my goodness, what a scary situation. So imagine, throw in, you have the woman who comes to the door, right? And obviously, and then you see the Camaro, obviously all this. Now, in this case, you've got this guy who's totally out of control. We see it in the video. Can you imagine? You're in law enforcement and say, hypothetically, that this guy is going totally out of control, saying all these things. He's got a loaded gun. He's screaming, shoot me, or who knows? Maybe he's going to say, I'm going to kill you all. Who knows? We don't know all the things that he was saying when he was down on the ground. He was certainly saying a lot of vile things from that tape, which is why that tape is relevant to the type of person he is. Right. So to me, that's a frightening. Can you imagine this? Like not even a split second. It's like a quarter second you have to react. And then the one guy says, gun, gun. And you see a guy who's shouting horrible things. You don't know if he's about to pull out another gun or grabbing your gun as a law enforcement, right?
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Once you get into an altercation with the police like this, I'm sorry, but things can go very badly. And if you have a gun on you when you do this, it's going to go even worse, So I feel really bad for these ICE agents. Yes, the guy shouldn't have died, but unfortunately, he caused his own death. But the biggest cause of, yes, I will agree is this. My whole thing has been that from the very beginning, they should have gone in there, pinpoint. If the local police aren't going to help them, they got to have backup. They got to start arresting people who are doing these activities, and then maybe that's going to stop. But the left wants the deaths. They want the confrontations because they want the deportations and ICE activities to stop.
Right.
We don't want that. Okay.
No, and that's why, by the way, I brought up that example of the guys going over to Tim Walz's office. They don't want, Tim Walz, who's been, one of the biggest, fighters, for illegal immigrants, it seems like, by far, I feel like, over Americans, the way he handles himself. And yet he's not even enough for them. When they got word that he was going to meet with Tom Homan, it was like they thought he was a traitor. So there's no there's no negotiating with these people or acquiescing to these people. And you brought up a very good point, Joaquin. I'm so glad you brought up that they're going after the funders. Because if they can go after who's funding these people, like in New York City, they had just recently at the Hilton, they had all these people suddenly show up. They're all wearing a similar T-shirt. They all have a similar signs. They're clearly coordinated. They're clearly getting paid. So if they can cut off the funding line so these people don't have the same T-shirts or don't have free hotel rooms or free food or free this, so there's no incentive to them, I think we'll actually see many fewer. There'll still be some fanatics, but I think we'll see a lot fewer out there. And maybe they'll have a wake-up call knowing their benefactor is going to be behind bars for a long time. So I'm really glad that Homan is following the money train, because that's important. And Joaquin, I am so glad you're okay. I'm glad your neighbor's okay. And obviously his sister or sister-in-law who you brought up, who showed up at your house. I'm glad everybody's okay. I'm glad that at least was a happy ending, but it was a great example of what happens sort of in the heat of the moment and confusion and dangers that many people face all the time. Thank you, my friend. It's great to hear from you. 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue, everybody, after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up on the Rita Cosby Show, as we are talking about lunacy on the left, wait till you hear what some celebrities are saying. Last night we played the Bruce Springsteen song. That was wild. Well, now a whole bunch of other celebrities are jumping on that bandwagon. And also, we have a number of nurses. Remember this guy, Alex Preddy, who Teddy thinks is a wonderful man, right? This guy who would look like a lunatic, again, who was an ICU nurse in a VA hospital. I wouldn't want him treating any patients that I know. And now there's a couple of these nurses out there, other nurses that are out there that are coming out and saying, here's what they would do if it was someone who was MAGA in their hospital. Here's what they would do. I mean, this is crazy. This is really crazy stuff. And, you know, to Teddy's point and Joaquin's point, we're in a really dangerous place, guys, where people are just so extreme and really like taking the gloves off. And it's really a frightening place, I think. And I think it's concerning to everybody. It should be concerning to everybody. I don't know how we turn it back. And especially a lot of these Democrats who have opened the door and I believe incited and inspired these people to go out and protest and do all these things. Now they're saying, well, maybe we, at least Walz sort of, let's try to cooperate. And then they go after him. There is no appeasing the angry mob. Let's go to Frank in New Jersey, line 5. Frank, your thoughts tonight here on the Rita Cosby Show.
Yeah, I work as a nurse, and, I have my concerns. When I see a guy with this kind of temperament and attitude in a high-stress job, I have serious worries about how he responds and how he treats his patients. I don't think anybody here would be under the illusion that if one of his patients was an ICE agent, I can't imagine what this guy would do. There's a complete lack of control.
Frank, you're bringing up a great point. Do me a favor, Frank. I want you to stick with us because I do think this is an important topic. Listen, there are so many great nurses out there. I applaud them all. It is I think such a noble, important position. But you're right. This guy needed to go to anger management classes well before this. We're going to continue with a lot more after the break, everybody.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.